Members of the Readers and Writers Club, book lovers, book readers, and lovers of the written word. A very, very warm welcome this evening on behalf of Ahava Communications and the Ahava Readers and Writers Club to yet another exciting conversation between author Shibu Kochery C Chibu or Shibu Kochery, a beloved author uh, who's recently written Amongst the Believers. And congratulations, Shibu, for being one of the top 5 writers according to the midday newspaper. A very big
Thank you, Mona.
congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
And Sudeshna Di needs no introduction. We have, seen Sudeshna Di evolve, as I just told her, from being a dynamic journalist to one of the most reputed and beloved and popular film directors in Tollywood today. So, a very brief formal introduction before I hand it over to Sudeshna Di to take the proceedings forward. Kochery C Chibu, the best-selling and award-winning author of Men and Dreams, in the Dhalodhar and Faith and the Beloved, is a graduate of the prestigious National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla. He has served in the Indian Navy and commanded 2 warships. Post his retirement, he has executed hydroelectric projects in the Kochery River Basin in Karnataka, Bias River Basin in Himachal, and Teesta River Basin in Sikkim. He holds a postgraduate degree in defense studies from Chennai University and an MA in English literature from Pune University. Shibu has changed tack from the snow-clad mountains to the blue oceans and has been associated with the setting up of a shipping company in India. Amongst the Believers, which we are going to hear about shortly, is a suspense thriller, is his 3rd book. A passionate and committed writer, Shibu creates a magical world of fiction built around a very well-researched background. Shibu was born in Kochi, Kangara Padi, and now lives in Bangalore with his wife and daughter. I'm not going to welcome you, Shibu, because you're a family member now of our Readers and Writers Club. But yes, we are very, very delighted and very excited to have you with us. And we look forward to hearing you as Sudeshna Di proceeds with moderating this session. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you.
Sudeshna Roy. I am a big fan of hers. I know her since the 90s, as I said, when she was a prolific journalist with Shanunda, and today is one of the most popular, beloved and such a well-spoken director, very, very, very popular with the media and with the audience of Tollywood. So we are honored to have Sudeshna Di with us this evening. Thank you so much, Sudeshna Di, for being here. Just a little introduction. There's so much to say about you, but we're just going to say a few lines to make it short. She is a film director, actor, and writer based in Tollywood. She started her career as an entertainment journalist before cooperating with director Abhijit Guho and foraying into the film industry. Since 2017, Sudeshna Di has been associated with the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights as a member, then a special consultant. From 18 September 2002, she has been the chairperson of the commission. Sudeshna and Obijit Guha directed the film Shabonit Dhara, which was a part of the Asian select competition, pardon me, section KIFF 2019, Kolkata. It was showcased in Toronto at the IFFSA Fest in May 2019. Sudeshna has directed 5 fiction television series and 3 non-fiction television series as well. She has directed many other films and is an award-winning director. Thank you, Sudeshna. Over to you. Enjoy yourselves, and the viewers are going to rock it hearing both of you speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mona, for the wonderful introduction. And it's a pleasure to meet people. And COVID 19 taught us that how we can be sitting in one place, and it was so easy, and it became a habit meeting people all over the world. So even if we are meeting virtually, I hope someday, after reading your book, especially, I would like to meet you. Should I call you Shibu or Mr. Kochery?
You can call me Shibu, Sudeshna. Please call me Shibu.
Okay. Shibu is a very common name in Bengal, and I have a lot of friends who are Shibus, and they are great friends. So I hope we shall one day become good friends after this conversation. What I liked, the first thing I want to ask you is your acknowledgement. I loved it when you wrote, writing of this book has been a journey in time and has been made possible by the support of my wife, Minnie, and daughter, Anjali. They have been my inspiration during the time away from home while writing this book. Now, before we talk about the book itself, I want to know how they were inspiration when they were not present. Was it the virtual world? Was it like we are both in 2 different cities, yet we are connecting? How did you get inspiration from them while writing amongst the believers?
I think, thank you, Sudeshna. I think you have answered that question right in the beginning when you talked about COVID 19. Yes, when I used to be out of the city and another city, communication with them and with the video calls, it was fantastic that, it's almost like they're there with you. And that's very important when you're writing this kind of people to know that, the people who are dear and near to you are literally with you when you're working. So it is in that sense, yes. And in any case, irrespective whether I am at home or elsewhere, they will always be my inspiration. They have been so before and they will continue to be.
Thank you. That's a great feeling to have. The family next to you. Now, let's get back to the book itself. Amongst the believers, it is actually 3 people who you have characterized, and people around them, and they are interconnected. Now these 3 people are the Nanda, Khushru, and Rekha. Are any of them based on your experiences or people you have met? What is your take on that? What did you think of, when writing about Nanda or Khushru or Rekha? What was it that went behind creating these characters who are superheroes, yet they're so humane?
There is a lot of the author in every character that you create. I accept that. And, whether it is the main characters, these 3, and there are so many others in the novel, each of them have a slice of me in them. Definitely. I will not deny that. But then equally challenging is, to get into the skin of the character. What you ask a very pertinent question that when you write about a character called Rekha, she's a lady and you're given a background, she's a doctor, she's a dancer. So you have to get into the doctor part, you have to get into the dancer part, then you have to get into the background. Then, as male authors always have the limitation, finally writing about a female character, you always have to be extra careful that you're not crossing the lines or you're getting it right. So a lot of research and a lot of effort gets into what I call getting into the skin of the character. So a fair amount of time has gone into it, into getting into the research. And Of course, it does in many ways correlate with people whom we have met in life, though there is no direct one-to-one to say that this is a liftoff of Indira Gandhi or, it is a liftoff of somebody else. No, it is not. But yes, I do agree that, each, that's one thing which I've been doing, that when this time I started writing, you observe whether you're sitting in a restaurant, whether you're traveling, whether you're in a meeting, you observe people and look for some traits which will go with a character whom you're building. And I do character sketching as part of the writing. And I had about 200 characters in my annual when I started writing this novel, whom I had sketched to various degrees. From there, I further developed these characters and took them on. So, be it Rekha, be it Khusru, or be it Nanda. Of course, Nanda, by the virtue of that he comes from Kerala, which is my home state, so there is a extra degree of familiarity for me. And Khusru, who comes from Kashmir, which I've been to, but I've trekked there extensively, I've been there, but it's still a lot of it is what you call, the creative imagination and writing and linking up which you do. Yes, I agree that it's always it is the what I would say it is the challenge about writing. It's about creating the characters who are you define their what I call the traits in the beginning, and we hope that the characters hold and behave as we move forward, and that's a very serious aspect of this writing. So when you define a character, you know that your character, you define these traits, and you have to be extra careful that as you move forward, at some time, you do not end up crossing your own definitions of what these characters are supposed to be doing, or the characters are not doing something which is completely what I would call non-standard. So those challenges are always there. And when your character, making a Khusru in this case is shown as a terrorist on the run, not an easy thing. I mean, I don't have any direct contact with any terrorist. No, to forget about a terrorist on the run, or for that matter, with an ex-terrorist. So a lot of it is what you read and what you make out, what it should be, and you use the imagination to create characters who should come live and should come live to the reader. When you read that, you should be able to feel the character come live when you're reading the novel. So that has been the effort. So be it Nanda, who is from Kerala and from that Kalari background, and whatever has happened to him in the novel, or be it Khusru, who has been in that created in a situation where he's shown as a terrorist on the run. He's shown as the one who's having to deal with the challenges of being, running away from one side, and he's also wandered on the other side, so he has to stay alive. And then he's in love with a doctor. So a lot of challenges. So many of these characters, they come with their what I call the moral compass. It's not always a black and white character that you see in real life, as in real life. None of the characters are ever real life. Of course, you have shades. Many of the people are more of the what I call the good variety and less of evil, and there are some who are more of evil and less of good. It takes all kinds. So in creating characters, not only Nanda, Khusru, and Rekha, even the other characters who are in the novel, when you sketch them, these are all strong characters who have had very, very important role to play. So those characters also, when they come, it becomes very important. So I suppose your question is, I would say that is the heart of writing a novel. It's creating characters who are convincing, and you yourself feel that, when you flesh them out, they're coming live in front of you. Then only you feel good about it.
That's really right. I was a little off for a while, but I could get the gist of what you said. Now, I want to read each blurb to give an idea to people who are listening to us about each character and how you have placed them. And you have placed them in various places. Geographically, it's a huge area that you have taken into account, and the descriptions that you have given are so visually rich, as if you are there experiencing it. Now, I know of a Bengali writer whom you haven't perhaps heard, Vibhuti Bhushan, who wrote years back in the 20th century. He wrote a book called Chander Pahar, which was about South Africa. And he was a geography teacher, and the description that he gave was so alive, though one would never believe that he had not gone to these places. Similarly, I found that in your book also, the descriptions, it seems as if you have been there, experienced it, you even know about where the kiosk is, where the bookstore is, where the dormitory is. It's so, so very detailed. Like, say, for example, even your blurbs that you've written, Nanda is an accused in a murder case and the lives of his dear ones are in danger. He's given an option to join RAW on a mysterious mission and penetrate the elite society of Pakistan, a choice that forces him to create a family only to destroy it. Khushru is a terrorist who has fallen out with his handlers, the ISI, and is on the run. Rekha has choreographed her life in the captivity of a terrorist as a dance drama. Even after marriage and two children, her obsession with Khushru knows no bounds. She is kidnapped and ends up as a sex slave to the teenage terrorists in war torn Afghanistan. Uh, Whereas Khushru, caught in the vicious gang wars of Karachi, he is to escort the warlord's daughter Miriam to Bosnia, a journey that takes him to Iran, Armenia, and to the prisons of Russia. Now, you have so many places. How long did it take you to research, and how much of you it is something that you have seen?
Of course, the research has taken a long time. I agree, because this kind of a book writing, I do have an advantage in the sense that, as part of my job, I have traveled quite a bit. I have traveled extensively to Far East. I have been extensively to Europe, not to America, but Europe, not to Russia also for that matter. But I've been extensive, traveled in the, let's say, China, Southeast Asia, Japan, and this side, and into Europe, and even to Africa. So I do have the experience of travel with me, which does help substantially when you write this kind of novels. When you know that when you're writing also, even if you have not been there, it's a little, it gives you that advantage of having seen so many places to imagine, visualize, and write. And what you know that what you will see, you're likely to see. So there's a lot of research has gone into it. That's a very important part. I accept. Research is research, research, and research. I would have spent about 2 years researching for this novel, researching on each of the places and each of the things that I've written there, and all from the open source information research. So that is a very important part. And when writing about canvas, that has got something to do with my military background. So, as part of our, in my previous life, what I call it, in my previous life, when I used to be in the uniform life, yes, we used to talk about many countries, and not so much about writing a fiction novel, but about what we used to call how to kill people more effectively in a more cost-effective manner. That's what they call bang for the buck. Is how to kill more people with less money. That's the simple translation of bang for the buck. So.
Now, this is what I was coming to. Sorry to interrupt. That your book has a lot of violence and killing, and that killing is something which is so visual. I'm a cinema person. It's like a script. The description, the way things happen, the color, the images that you give, and how he has fallen. You've given every action. Has your military background helped you in that?
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, that is, see, one thing I'll tell you, some of the things, like if I were to tell you about, Kalashnikovs, Uzis, AK-47, or any of the weaponry that is described, it will be familiar to most of the military men. There is nothing about, those stuff. But what goes in the mind of the man behind, well, that's where the
Yes.
author comes in. It is not just the guns. It's always
No,
the
I'm not
mind and the
talking
man
about the
behind it.
guns. I'm talking
So,
about the way they have defended themselves, the way they have escaped, the way they have killed, and what went in their mind before killing.
sure. So a lot of the times, that is one thing which I keep telling, that that strategy, thinking, strikes and counter strikes, and how you plot from both sides. That has got a lot to do with the military training. That's what I accept. I have an advantage, but only to the extent of having had an exposure. So in creating many of the characters and many of the scenes, see, firing a gun or being under fire or how to protect oneself in a combat scenario is part of military training. It's a regular military training. But put it out of a standard military context and put it into a different environment, then of course it calls for a lot of adaptations, imaginations. So the author comes in there definitely, but the military background does help. Definitely it helps. I accept that.
I just want to read a part from your book, which I want to share with, and the description that you have given. Uh, By the time Nanda reached the gateway of India, the rain had eased off. A group of people who were huddled under umbrellas suddenly burst out into the open, running towards the sea. Chai, chai, Nanda heard a man holding a thermos flask in his hand cry out. 5 for 200 rupees. Nanda heard a photographer tell a couple. Soon the couple was posing. The photographer instructed his assistant to throw a stone at the horde of doves in the fenced area behind them. 100 birds were in the air, and the photographer started ticking continuously. There was a police vehicle stationed in the vicinity. The gunmen in the vehicle looked bored as Nanda walked past. The walkers looked enviously at the sweat drenched t shirt of Nanda. Now, this description, it gives you immediately, it's very pictorial. Whereas your violence is pictorial, your plain simple description itself is pictorial. This is what I find incredible. And the other bit, then what he does, Nanda wondered if he stopped on the way at the Kolaba cafe and ate his breakfast. He bought a sports jacket from one of the street vendors and strolled in the Kolaba market. It took him some time to track down the mannequin shop. He bought two mannequins, one male and one female. The mannequins were mounted on a wheeled base plate. He pushed the mannequins around in the shop to check the free movement of the wheels. Now, you have even given the action, and there is no violence here. Yet, there is this so much of vibrancy and action. And your whole book has this. Uh, I just want to know, I haven't read your other books. Were they of the similar kind, or is this book any different from the others?
I will, be honest here that when I write, it's like, for example, that we mentioned the mannequin. That mannequins for a particular purpose as you move forward in the book.
Yes,
So
yes. I
that
don't
they
want
were
to
being.
say why. I didn't
Yeah. Okay.
want to
So
let the cat out.
correct. So that there is a requirement, and therefore he had to check it out. And the one of the reason that you're saying is, so there is a reason it is under observation. Is that people are judging his ability, and he himself is trying to see now that he know that he's being tested, and his life will be actually under danger, and he has to protect himself. So now we are giving the details to know that it is not that he's just another random guy who has been picked up and who has made it good, but he has got a thinking mind and he looks into details which will make a difference in the action scene that will follow. So I suppose in my previous books also I have followed in this that as a matter of fact in my first book I was accused of being too technical in detail. I mean it's so I somehow I believe that that unless you have the details, I find it difficult to write. I just can't do just presume and just move forward. So I mean
Great.
to the extent, for example, many places you'll find that sometimes you may even feel that the detail given may not be relevant to the story. Sometimes some of the readers have told me that what's the relevance to the main plot. I said no, but it's just that if you're talking about event, this is how the event gets complete. So even if it's not relevant, it should be there.
No,
It should be
it's a
complete in
novel,
itself.
and it has to have a background. It has to show life in it. I believe in that, and this is what is remarkable in your book. And then I will now read out a portion for everybody here, which is to do with the action. Huh? Stop at the mall, Khusru told Shaukat with a voice of authority. As the vehicle stopped, Khusru got out and opened the door for Miriam. She hesitated and Khusru almost dragged her out. Run with me. We are being targeted. He whispered in her ears, and together they started running towards the entrance door of the mall. Khusru saw two men jumping out of the SUV parked ahead of their car and racing towards them. Shaukat, Zamin pe let jao. Khusru shouted at Shaukat, who was standing right in front of the car. There was a bewildered look on his face as he heard Khusru shout. Khusru saw one of the men draw a Kalashnikov out. He pushed Miriam into the mall and whispered, "Get out on the other side of the mall. I will be there shortly." Look at his confidence. He ran towards the two men. He dived to the ground and fired at the man who was pointing his Kalashnikov at Shaukat. He saw Shaukat's face explode like a cherry tomato as the bullets hit him. The attacker was turning towards Khusru when he was hit in the neck and he fell on the pavement. The second man, so you see, this is simultaneously action taking place. The second man paused to look at his partner, and Khusru could get a good shot which caught the man in the chest. He fell down with his rifle firing wildly into the air. Khusru got up and started running towards the black SUV which was approaching their car. It doesn't finish. There is still excitement, still more. As Khusru neared the car, he could see one of the windows being rolled down and the barrel of a gun coming out. There was light inside the SUV, a face with a deep scar running down the right cheek. Fierce eyes pierced from the behind the gun. Khusru dived to the ground and fired into the car. He heard a loud scream and the car swerved and sped away. This this detailing, I could, while reading it, I could picture the scenery. When we are talking, when I'm being a filmmaker, when we read out a script, I often, if you're not initiated, you don't we leave out certain things because this description is not there in a script, because we are reading it out. And if we don't give them, the producer or the people, the feel, then they find it very difficult to be attentive. But a book is a very private thing. So for me, this was very good. This description, I enjoyed this because, after all, the book is something you are reading and you're imagining. This is the difference between a literary effort and a cinema. But in my mind's eye, I could see the film. Thank you. And this detailing and this kind of, your interaction that you've shown, then later on you do, then after this incident, uh, uh, Khusru comes back. Soon he found a tuk-tuk and they got in. It took him half an hour to reach Babar's place. 3 SUVs were revving up. Khusru counted 12 men, armed to the teeth and dressed in black. "I will kill that dacoit motherfucker." Babar was fuming. "It is a setup. The company wants that," Miriam said in a cold voice. Miriam being Babar's adopted daughter. Khusru knew that Babar was blind with fury and was not thinking straight. "Yes," Khusru added. "How dare you?" Babar pointed his gun towards Khusru and paused. There was a silence for a few seconds. He called Miriam and Khusru to the side. "How do you know?" Babar asked Miriam. "Company tactics. They want you and Dakat to kill each other." Miriam said it in a calm voice. "They will step in with the D gang for Bhatta settlement." Now, this kind of conversation soon after that, it is very, very relevant. It somehow reminds me, if you don't mind, when I first read Mario Puzo's Godfather, I could see these things happening, and your style has that. There is height of tension, and then there is calm, and within that calm, you create new tension. Now, is that something that you have developed from the very beginning? Is it life which taught you? What is it that inspired you to write this way?
See, actually, this is related to the research in the background and how the story is building up. So, one of the things about in this game, because there are you got three four agencies. There is the underworld, there is the ISI on one side, there is a RAW on one side, then there is somebody else, one more part of the underworld. So there are three four people who are playing against each other. So there is a lot of information which is regarding who is doing what, how the other side is deciphering. So the thinking part is very important. It is not just about showing your chest and taking the bullets. Then that becomes what I call that become like a traditional standard old style Hindi movie. That that 70s 80s type of Hindi movie where there's no brains are not required. It's only brawn. It's all brawn all the way. So whereas, but if you write any kind of thrillers, it's all about thinking. As you know, there's a saying in the military, we say, that battles are fought and won in the minds of people. Unless you cannot win it in the mind, you cannot win it on the ground. So that mind part is very important. That's what I've been trying to do. Every stage of the main book, you will find this the mind game, doing what and how it is playing up. How one side is doing something, other side out countering, or somebody's getting outwitted. That's a lot of that forms into the book. And I believe that's a very important ingredient in any kind of thriller because that is what brings in the thriller element.
That's great. I just wanted we did talk about it briefly at the very beginning when we were talking about the characters. Now, the character Rekha, the way you have drawn Rekha, uh, where did you get your inspiration, or where did you get, who are the people who went into this female character?
By name, of course, I do not have anyone specifically to say, but let me put it this way that, since 2005, I've met a number of women who have, in their own right, who are running business or who are senior corporate executives or IIT, IIM graduates or doctors who are, in their own rights, like you have made your own name in your field that you're doing. So when you see independent women, and you realize that there is a lot of capability of independent women, which is kind of underrated in our society and even in our novels, writing everywhere actually. So it is one of that effort has also been to actually give them credit for what they are capable of. Why not? See,
Okay.
so that is definitely there. I mean, because I have met. I mean, I'm not saying that traits in this particular novel. I'm not in the, this part. But otherwise, people are very capable of similar stature, similar, or even higher stature. People who stand in their own right, go against patriarchy, do things their own way. So what is that is in my way it is recognition of showing strong woman characters, though some readers have taken objection to that also, saying that you're showing women to be what is called rather aggressive or rather you know
This
that
about aggressive women, that in Bengali language, uh, women, aggressive women, we have coined a word in Bengali from aggressive, calling it agrashi. That means aggressive. It's so similar to aggressive, that women who take what they need and what they want, women who are not to be put down. And that is what I loved about Rekha, the way you have portrayed her. Um, and that will, is it perhaps because your greatest inspiration, as you say, is your wife and your daughter?
of course that
Both
is there
I'm sure
always.
are strong women.
They are.
And now you tell me, it's my time to ask you, instead of my giving you comments, what is who is your favorite character? Who did you, I mean, they're all your creations, they're all your children, but which character did you find, did you give the most to?
As a matter of
Your
fact,
favorite.
I do not have an answer for that in the sense, and I've been asked this question before also, that one of the things I'd like to highlight here is, sometimes like in this particular novel, I have spent more time in some of the minor characters who may not even, caught the attention of the people. There is the Russian sergeant whom I've talked about, Kharkiv.
Yes.
Now, the amount of research and effort that I put into that guy is disproportionate to because I was doing the first time I talking about the Russian life, the Russian military life, how it
You
runs.
haven't
A
been
lot of
to
research
Russia.
went into it. So, that a lot of research went into it. So now what happens is that when I talk about a character in terms of amount of effort puts in this novel, possibly I put in more efforts in that. But then he is nowhere in the mainstream of things. He's just one of those characters on the side. So actually, in that sense, I have never looked at my characters to decide who's my favorite or not. I always look at the amount of efforts that I put in that book. In this book, it is that character, the Russian sergeant, where it took my maximum effort because it's again I have not been to Russia, though I do have a lot of associations, but not been there. So and that too, even though I have association with the military, but the details that you're going into prison life and how the military happens and a lot of things. A lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of reading went into that to create that character. Till I was convinced that that character is okay, good enough. I don't know, but I'll ask you that was it convincing enough, the Russian sergeant?
Yes, yes, very much so. What I want, another thing that I want to know is which is what more enjoyable to you? The process of creation, the research and writing, or the reader's reaction after the book is written?
Of course, the reader's reaction is the most important because finally, it's like proof of the pudding is in the eating now. I mean, if I can't stay in an ivory tower and say I've written great stuff, I don't care about the readers. That never. That is not to be. Because finally, it doesn't matter how good a book is unless people read it. It is not serving its purpose. Otherwise, it'll just remain an ivory tower effort. So definitely, the readers are always in the front. Though I never think of the readers when I'm writing, and I cannot also. I never think of the reader when I'm writing. I think of the characters, situations, and what I call that. You think of one character, two characters, and in this particular case, it's spread over from India to all the way to Ukraine, Russia, this side, and Afghanistan, Pakistan. There's so many geographical places and people. So even to comprehend the whole thing in your mind, it takes time. So it took me a fair amount of time before I could have the whole thing playing out in my mind. Then then it becomes easier to write. But when you spread out in time and many characters with many events, timelines, geography, that challenges. I mean, what you enjoy. But finally, the result is always. I mean, I don't even mind what I call a discerning criticism. Even when some of the readers criticize, I don't mind, provided it is not shallow. They that he or she has read the book, and he or she has not liked the book, or these aspect of it, these reasons that I'll appreciate definitely. So the good and the bad, so long as it's from a what I call a discerning reader, that is always the best part of the writing.
This particular book has a lot of violence in it, which I told you, which I we talked about earlier also. And what I like is, or what I wouldn't say like, what is really remarkable is the violence is also in women. We normally think of women as soft. So here you have given, and it is true in real life, I have faced women who can be very violent, and this is a kind of a patriarchy that women should be people who are soft, who sacrifice. You have gone against. Do you believe that that just proves that you believe in the parity of men and women? And how long have you, and how have you used it in your life?
I know this is, I would not like to mix my writing with my life. That may not be a fair equation. But I accept the first point which you said. See, when you write, that's one of the challenges when you write a novel in today's environment. So when you write a novel and when you create characters and you create strong characters, so we have had strong women characters in real life in 20th century and in 21st century who have done things on their own. Now, I am not here to advocate, and I don't normally advocate anything in my novels about what I say is that it's a slice of life. It's a perspective that you're giving. Let's say, now that you mentioned it, for example, see the topic of, let's say, the 72 virgins in heaven, or the concept of houris, which is talked about. It's something which has caught the imagination of a lot of people in the world to say that for a martyr who dies, you're going to be given 72 virgins, and there is a description of the virgins on how good they are, so maybe 72 feet tall, and how great they are going to be, and you forthwith by design, you promise that you're going to have sex with them for, let's say, forever, eternity. Now, as a concept in our this world life, it's very easy to, let's say, belittle that, or very easy to believe that both ways. But then if it goes to a point where people are convinced about it and they're sacrificing their life, maybe at some part of it is on this promise, then one does need to think. So a lot of the, let's say a lot of the things that what I talk about is, in this book, in many ways, it's a reflection on the terrorism and what drives terrorism and what are the pluses and minuses of it. Though I have not said anything right and wrong, there's so many things to be talked about. It's always some right on the terrorist side and maybe more wrongs. And equally, there'll be some wrongs on the other side also. It is not that everybody is perfect. So when you try to look at it, it's not easy. It is not a black and white situation. So let us say you're someone who's, and this I'm telling as a military man. See, as a military man, the battle and putting one's life at stake is part of your job. But the difference is that you've built up a system where it is military man is honored. You're doing it for your country. It's always associated with honor and pride and recognition. It's for a noble cause so that, a billion people are safe because even if you have to lose your life, there is a value system that is built around it on which people do. And so many people, soldiers all over the world, it's similarly like that. No, so long as the soldier is not involved in the, let's say the affairs of the society, and you're not involved, use the soldiers to put down your own people, which India has not done. In whichever countries they do that, like in China, even they refer to the soldiers as dogs because the Chinese emperor and those people have used the soldiers to kind of put down the society, not called for. So the terrorist also, in many ways, if you look at it, who's going to blow himself up as a way of battle, he is believing in a value system which makes him do what he's doing. So when you talk about this kind of a value system, those are extreme conditions because, just to tell you that in our walk of life, if you see a judicial system, what does it do? You do something wrong, you kill a fellow, they'll arrest you and throw you to the jail, maybe hang you. The maximum is death. But if you're going to blow yourself up, there is nothing after that. No? There's no societal norm for handling that. Your law and order doesn't hold after that. So this book has touched upon that aspect of life. That is one of my efforts to highlight what those people go through and the kind of things they do. Even thinking that, even if you're dying, there should be a ceremonious death. Or, that you have seen some of those parts which you have said. So similarly, even women who are caught in those situations as sex slaves, as to, you have no options, that we talk so much about in the abuse of women in this way, which is being done by them. Now, whether it is right, whether it is wrong, a lot will depend upon who's reading and which side of the story you're on. So even strong women characters who, let's say, stand on that side may not appeal to you, but who have been through the system and still survived, yes. So that one of the things that I've tried to do is that in the novel I try not to be judgmental, because being judgmental then kind of becomes what I call a bias writing.
Right.
It's a very effort to present things as a slice of life or a way of things happening. And equally important is the intrigues and maneuvers of international spy agencies, of the nations and the politics behind. A lot of the time, it's also to sensitize people to see that what you see is not what is scripted. There is a Mahabharata going on behind everything that you see. See, unless you know what is scripted, you cannot trust what you see. So, be it the Ukraine war, and that Ukraine war is not about Russia-Ukraine at all. It's about something else. But it's an ordinary man is told that it's about the saving democracy. Of course, it's not. It's got nothing to do with saving democracy. It's a power game. It's about saving the petrodollar, saving the American dominance. So they are capable of doing it. So they engineered it, which cannot be traced back to them. That's a success. Or if you talk about Iran, Iraq, the American invading Iraq, we are given a highlighting, that of course, this is a hypothesis. It is not, I'm not talking about claiming it to be truth. But when Pakistan was put to that situation, in chess, they call it Queen's Gambit. You have to sacrifice some people to get out of the situation. And that's what they did. They sacrificed a few of their people to convince Americans that, Saddam Hussein has got weapons of mass destruction. So they went charging and they got break at this side. So that so many millions in Iraq for what? Because someone has fed the line that weapons of mass destruction. So some of the ideas, effort is also to bring out these kind of complex issues, which you should get a perspective. A discerning reader will understand that how this game is played, and what you see is not what you get. What you fed in the media is propaganda. It doesn't matter. Iraq, during the invasion of Iraq, there was full-fledged propaganda by the West, which convinced the whole world that Saddam Hussein is sitting on, whatever chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction is going to heal humanity, which none of it was true. But they were fed that. They were fed that, and there was a system behind it. So in all these games, when you write international thrillers and things, that sometimes some of the readers may find it a little too tough to digest. That the spectrum and the amount of activities of the international agencies, the underworld being used by international agencies, then your individuals who are caught in it, then there are terrorists who are on the other side. Some readers even told me also that it does become a little too difficult to comprehend at times. But I guess I suppose that's some books are like that. Some part of it will be remain also like that.
Thank you. You gave absolutely what you said, that what we are fed on is what we believe, start believing. And the feeding, I mean, more than the bullets, this feeding is very, very detrimental sometimes, the wrong feeding. It creates more problems than, and the bullets. The other thing, and it leads to killing each other as well. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, see, like you said, the soldier is a person who believes that he's saving his country. It is, and I agree with that. It's very noble. But a terrorist is also made to feel that way, that he is doing it for some reason, for his country, for his people, for his ideals. So, therefore, there is a very thin line between the two. And it is there in your book as well.
It is, but one thing is there, that is a challenge actually, because that people say, behavior of an individual is a reflection of his or her value system. So, if in your value system, if you're convinced that if you are wearing a suicide vest and going and blowing up 100 innocents, that is the right thing, that becomes difficult. So, the whole question is that, where do you draw the lines? Who draws the lines? How do you define? So one of the things that people say is that this book is not, like I said, it's not a political discourse on right or wrong. It is not meant to be. It is just a fiction novel, but it does give you a well-researched ground realities on whatever is happening in each of those fields. So I believe a lot of the times many of the things that are said will not be known to people, and many of the things are written is for the benefit that which is not easily available in your regular reading, to give a perspective which makes a discerning reader to think as to what could have been, what should have been. So otherwise, it's like there's a I often refer to Mahabharata because it's very easy to relate to our Indian audience. So like the saying is a standard saying in people say you should not you should not allow yourself to be used as a shikhanti. No,
Right.
but then it does happen. No, in this
It does.
warfare between Russia and Ukraine has become the shikhanti. Ukraine is
Absolutely.
only a front, but all that will come out on a later date because now it is that
Still
this will not
happening.
come
The
out.
history is being created
Yes,
even now.
it'll come out even now. It'll come out.
I think I think we've gone through your book and beyond in our conversation, and I really enjoyed it. The what, last question that I want to ask you is that what would you expect from your readers? The reactions that you've been getting so far. You've said some have criticized, but what are the positive reactions? I want to hear that. Because for me, it was a book full of positivity, but there were, like I told you, the violence is something that really, but then in Greek tragedy also they describe the violence, and it has a cathartic effect. Your book too has that.
I know. Majority of the readers, yes, I've got very positive feedbacks. People have been happy with the book, my way that the plots, and of course, many of them think that are you an ex-raw man? I said no, I'm, I'm not associated with raw. I'm not from any intelligence agency. But this is not about someone even asked me also, is this actually what happened? I said no, this is a fiction novel. I'm not claiming any of the things that I said it to be the way that things have actually happened. It's a fiction novel, but built around a lot of well-researched background. So the background information will be correct. Whether the 26/11 attack was done by which Pakistani army officer, Though there is reasonable to believe that, one of the things I say is that whenever you people carry out attacks like what happened in 26/11 Mumbai, it is not possible without military support and military training and military organization. It not possible at all. So even though they can claim to the contrary, we do know that they have been trained by their Pakistan army, and but it's just that you cannot trace it back to them. So they have succeeded.
Yes.
So
You don't
that's
have the
that.
concrete proofs with you don't have that, but you have the supposition and the understanding. Last question, Mona, before we round up. Do you have any of your books being made into films or visual in the visual medium? Your book could be a very good series on the OTT. So have you ever been approached?
Not yet, not yet. I have not even looked seriously in that direction. As a matter of fact, I am focusing on a sequel to this, the next one. So, but if someone does, okay, I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. I think Mona is there, and I had a wonderful time. I don't know about the others. You are a delightful speaker as well. Sometimes people who write don't speak that well, but you are incredibly good. Thank you, and all the best. And to all readers, just go through it. And if you can go through with the three main beginnings, you will be hooked on to the book till you finish. We do binge watching on OTTs. You can do binge reading on this book.
Thank you, Sudeshna. Thank you so much.
Before I end this very incredible session this evening, just two questions, Shibu, briefly, if you could answer them kindly. First of all, Amrita Mukherjee, who is a very popular author and a professional in the city, she has thanked Sudeshna profusely for the session and for also bringing up her favorite book, Chader Pahar. The question that she has for Shibu is: does it ever happen that you meet someone and come back home and jot down his or her character traits so that you can use these in your next book? This is the first question. Once you answer, I'll go quickly to the second question.
The answer is yes. Not one character. That is a. I've been doing that almost as a daily life since 2009. Hundreds of them. Anyone and everyone whom I meet, if there is an interesting trait which I think could be used, not that individual. So, for example, I may meet a lady and she would have told me, let's say, something about the work she does or the way she does things or something, any one particular aspect which has caught my attention, I note it down. Yes, and that is part of character sketching. The only difference is that, if I sketch a character and tell the lady this is based on you, she will not agree. You know, she will not see it because it will have been so removed from her. But yes, it is a major fact. Unless you observe people, you cannot write. You cannot create everything from imagination. Not possible.
So I'm
Thank you.
expecting to be one of your characters
Sorry.
sometime.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Shibu, for that wonderful answer. I hope Amrita is happy to hear you. Uh, the second question is from a very active member, a keen reader, a lady who also runs her own book club, a well known figure in the city called Hoimonti Bakchi. She asks, there is something so fascinating about how characters change emotionally and the psyche of the characters twist after a war. How was your experience while you were writing the characters and their unstable emotional states? Would you like to give any examples from the book?
Of course. See, that is like I would say that it is applicable to all characters and all my novels. So to say that as an author, when I wrote my first book, it took me about 4 years in research, 1 year in editing, 5 years. and about 4,000 man writing hours before the book came out. So what happens is that with each character, you do so much of research. Like first time also, my Rekha was part of my first book, and I had written about Kathak dancing, and my editor told me, Shibu, this is academic writing. You know, pulse of the dancer in it. I was very offended. I thought I'd done a lot of research. She said, no, you please go and meet a Kathak dancer, then you correct. So I had to go and meet a Kathak dancer, watch her teaching some students, and I had a chat with her. And I came back and made the corrections. The lines were 3 or 4, and the correction I made must be about 15 or 20 words. But at effort, it took me 2 months to get that right. So, the as an author, yes, phenomenal changes. With each book, you feel that you're kind of born once again. You know, with as a, literally, because it's like giving birth. I call it like that. You're like publishing a novel. It's like giving birth. So this is my third child. So definitely, you're that there's a phenomenal part of you which gets you can call it catharsis or transformed, evolved. In all these happen to you as an author because, and sometimes in the first novel when I wrote, I remember I wrote a character who was this is related to the Gujarat riots. Somebody who was part of, and he loses family and all that. Later on, when I was reading it, I had tears, coming down because I didn't know that it was so bad what I had written. So that part, it does happen that, when you write the characters and the plight of characters, when you're writing, in the flow of writing, you just write. You really do not draw lines. You have sketched something and when you write, and it's always the editor who tells you, draws the lines and says, Shibu, this is where it should end because this is beyond the line. This is, your literary freedom ends here. So, I would say a lot of credit to, I must mention this, to Kirti Ramachandra, who was my editor for this. Because I believe the editor is an equally important part in this writing business because the author will write so many things. But very often it's an editor who, even for a third novel, it's always the editor who tells you, that you reins you in to say it, kind of trims you so that you're not like what I would say, your writing should not look Vigalang, wherein you suddenly somewhere you're protruding more than a body should be. So that evenness of your writing and shaping of the novel, etc., a lot of it goes to the credit goes to the editor. So it's a very important factor. It's always like your editor is like your what I call a sparring partner, where you're writing an editor, you give a punch back and say this ain't good, that's okay. So in that sense, yes, there is a phenomenal amount of personal experience when you write the book. And even when you're writing, let's say, when you do research or write about, let's say, the war-torn Afghanistan, what happens there, it does hurt you. When you write, you mentioned about violence, but it is true, Afghanistan was all about violence. So many millions of people got displaced, so many thousands got killed. And people just going around blowing themselves up. And so when you read that, when I did research and, spoke to people, and when you write it, you yourself feel, what is that word? You yourself feel that anger within yourself. Why so much of violence? Why so many people have to die? Or even when you talk about the Russian prisons and the kind of that Sergeant Khaki was talking about, and when you write about that, you also feel, my goodness, even I am a military man, even for a military man, I find this is going beyond the limits. The kind of stuff that you describe in the novel. So yes, very true. As an author, each novel is like giving birth to a child. That's emotional. It's a kind of that is a level of involvement and passion involved. So definitely, there is a phenomenal amount of transformation, evolving, and joy and sorrow in writing the book. So when you're writing about violence, it's not that you're happy writing about it. It's part of the novel. Sometimes you yourself are, you burn inside, thinking that so many people are dead. So many. When you do the research and when you know that you're writing about a background, but it's all based on facts, and it hurts. To that extent, I agree. Sometimes it does. It does. To me, it has not been traumatic yet, never, but it does. It does tell on you. So that's why I said, no, when you release a novel, it's a kind of a phenomenal pleasure. It's each one when you book, good or bad, whatever it is, it's your child. Whether someone likes it or not, it's your child.
Thank you so much for that wonderful response to Hoivanti's question. I'm overwhelmed. I'm personally overwhelmed with this extraordinarily exciting and engaging conversation between two eminent and mega talented personalities who we are so proud to have with us today. Shudeshnadi, I cannot thank you enough because I know how busy you are. And we only see you in the papers, mostly in T2, and your photographs always bring back wonderful memories of good old telegraph days. Uh, I mean, I'm so, so grateful that you could spare time to read the book and pose these wonderful questions. I only knew you as a very astute director, and now you are such an amazingly spontaneous and such a talented speaker who attracts and holds attention of those listening to you. And intellects and book lovers in the city. So, on behalf of Ahava Readers and Writers Club, I'm overjoyed and thrilled that you came this evening. I'm going to, I'm going to make sure that I kidnap you many, many more times for our book launches in the city. And I hope one day Shibu is in Calcutta again and we see both of you in person, having a conversation in front of a very engaging audience in Kolkata. So thank you, Shudeshnadi. Wishing you all the best, and we want to see you see your films on screen over and over again. And Shibu, what do I say? You are a family member. You of Ahava Communications. You're very close to Sushanai, though you live far, far away in Bangalore. We admire your grit. We admire the way you speak. We admire you as a person, and thank you for trusting us with your books. And we look forward to many more books coming and better ones. And may they keep selling and may you keep growing and soaring as an author. So, a very, very big thank you to both of you. The audience had a wonderful time and good luck. And thank you very much. And have a wonderful evening and a great year. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mona.
And
Thank you,
Shibu,
Sudeshna.
all the best for your next book. And may
Sure. Thank
with
you so
all
much,
these.
Sudeshna. Next book I will launch in Calcutta. I'll be there.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.